Scotland, where sheep roam the hills and graze in front of castles, as well as in the neighborhoods and alongside the hiking paths, with the occasional Highland coo.
Hi, I'm Melanie, and you are watching Yarn Journeys. I am a knitter and a spinner, and I live in Arlington, Virginia, just outside of Washington, D.C. Welcome back if you are a returning viewer, and if you are new here, well, I am so glad that you have found me. Today's video is the second in my series about my trip to Scotland this past fall. The first one was all about my experience at Shetland Wool Week, and I have put the link to that video in the description so that after you finished watching this one, you can check out all the info about my trip to Shetland Wool Week. But in this video, we're going to go to the beautiful area of Glencoe in the Highlands and to the amazing Isle of Skye. I got to visit 3 wonderful woolly and yarny hotspots, which I will be delighted to show you. We'll also take a look at some of the gorgeous scenery that the fall season in Scotland put on display. Wow. It is really, really beautiful in this part of the world, and I feel very lucky to see it and share it with you. And of course, I will also update you on the progress of some of my projects. So let's dive in. The sheep that you see beautifully grazing all over the Isle of Skye and the Highlands of Scotland are raised mainly for meat, and their wool is often discarded, or it is just sent to the British Wool Board for a pittance. So the large majority of Scottish sheep farmers are really looking to the meat side of sheep raising to be profitable and not so much the wool. Now, there are a few places where small crofters and some woolen mills are trying to raise the profile of Scottish wool yet again. This was never so much of an issue for Shetland. Shetland has its own different story. But on the Scottish mainland and in the Hebridean Isles, the effort to raise the profile of Scottish wool for crafters and knitwear and textiles is a very hopeful note in the history of Scottish wool. So I am going to share with you 3 lovely woolly and yarny spots that I visited on my travels. The first is the Caledonian Wool Company in Fort William. So Fort William is kind of the Grand Central Station, as it were, for travel through the Highlands. The main road that gets you from south to north in the Highlands goes through Fort William. And I was thrilled that when I was passing through the city that Caledonian Wool Company was open. It is right smack dab in the middle of the main shopping street, or the high street as they call it in the UK. Just outside the entrance, there was this fun bike that had been yarn bombed and draped all over with crochet and knits. It was very cute. Unfortunately, it was quite soggy because it was really raining that day. The Caledonian Wool Company focuses on Scottish and British yarn, and they had a very lovely selection there. What I particularly fell in love with were the needle felting kits. The owner of the Caledonian Wool Company is the genius behind these. So she buys the wool, which has already been dyed, and then she puts together these creative and fun needle felting kits that I just think are adorable. The Highland coup, as they call them, is definitely one of my favorites, although I'm also partial to Nessie. If you have a needle felter in your life, or you yourself enjoy needle felting, I just think they are really joyful and fun. I did bring home this skein of West Yorkshire Spinners signature 4-ply. They are famous for their self-striping variegated sock yarn. I've heard wonderful things about this yarn in particular for knitting socks. It is very nice and soft. It is 75% wool, 23% nylon. And this color is wood pigeon. I just think the lavender and gray light purple will be really pretty in a nice pair of socks. So this, of course, is a fun memento of my trip through Fort William. We'll now head to the Isle of Skye to visit Shilasdair Yarns. Shilasdair Yarns is in a sort of little croft house in Glenview, not far from Staffin on the Trotternish Peninsula. If you are visiting the Old Man of Store, you are likely to drive by it. The Old Man of Store being that famous mountain with a pinnacle on top that is can be really amazing if it's not foggy out. Anyway, back to Shilasdair Yarns. The owners are wonderful hand dyers who specialize in dyeing with natural plant dyes, many of which they grow in their dye garden, which is all around the small croft house that they use as their shop. The wool for Shilasdair Yarns is actually sourced on the UK mainland, but they have it spun to their specification, and then it is dyed on the Isle of Skye. I was very struck by the beauty of their colors, and they also had a wonderful selection of gifts and keepsakes for yarn lovers and wool lovers who are visiting the Isle. I highly recommend a visit. I felt like a kid in a candy store at Shilasdair Yarns. So here are the things that I purchased there. They had hanging on the wall this British Breeds tea towel, which I thought was just so much fun. I don't think I can get the whole thing in there, but you can see that they have the all sorts of sheep on this towel. The blackface, of course, is the common sheep that is seen all over the hills in Scotland and the Islands. I don't think I am going to be able to bear actually using this for its intended use. It's a nice handy dandy reference to sheep breeds, after all. And of course, there was the beautiful yarn on display. I was very much struck by a pair of mittens that were on display. These are the Quirang mittens, the Quirang being another important mountainous landmark on the Isle of Skye. They are knit in double layer. I'll link into the description below, but they were designed with Shilasdair's Smwyd yarn. This is a fingering yarn that is 75% Blueface Leicester and 25% Gotland. This is the natural color, and this is the green that I purchased for contrast. I just love this color of peridot green. So this will be the outer layer of the mittens, and this will be the peekaboo inner layer. But I couldn't stop there because I was well aware of the fact that I might not ever get back to the Isle of Skye, and their yarns were just so beautiful. I also purchased a sweater's quantity of their Oir yarn. I hope I am saying that right. This is fingering yarn that is 50% Blueface Leicester and 50% Massam. So this is, I just love this chocolatey brown. It is dyed with Kutch and Madder. And what is fun about what Shilasdair Yarns does is for their dyed wool, they put these little tags with the dye and with a picture of the plant with a little botanical drawing on it so you know what it is. So that's kind of fun. I had in mind to knit the Renaissance sweater by Eleanor Mortensen with this yarn. So I needed to get a contrast color. And once again, my eye went to green. Now in this light, the way the camera is picking it up, and in the light in the store, I felt that there was going to be enough contrast between these two yarns for this sweater. I am going to have to swatch to make sure because in lower light or softer light, I'm a bit concerned. But I mean, just look at this green. It just makes you think of lush vegetation and earthiness and all good things associated with the Scottish landscape. This one is dyed with tansy. The third place I'm going to take you to is Island at the Edge. This is a real working croft just outside of Edinbane on the northern part of the Isle of Skye. Here, a couple raises sheep and cows with the specific goal of conserving rare breed sheep, such as the Hebrideans, which they have a lovely little flock of. The day that I visited, it was really raining hard, so unfortunately I did not get a good walk around to take photographs of all the different kind of sheep that they had there. So Island at the Edge is very much dedicated to preserving the traditional wool culture of the island of Skye and Scotland. They breed the sheep there, but the owner is also a spinner a knitter. She teaches all about spinning and knitting. And they also have some wonderful things for sale there. You can buy hand knit sweaters there, including these really cool traditional fisherman sweaters that are knit with yarn that was spun in the grease. So the lanolin is still in the wool, just like traditional Scottish fisherman sweaters originally did, to have a degree of waterproofness. They also have some of their wool made into tweed, so you can buy tweed garments, like this wonderful poncho that they have sewn up and embellished. Really fun, wonderful place for anybody who is into wool and fiber arts. I thought that finding 100% Hebridean wool was pretty special. Hebridean sheep, which look like this. See, isn't this tea towel handy? Are black. They are blackest also when they are lambs. And they had skeins of DK weight yarn from the first clip of a Hebridean lamb. Look how dark that is. It's coming across on the camera as almost genuine black. To my eye, I would say it really is a deep, deep, deep dark brown, but how excited was I to come across this really special yarn. When I was there, they had 8 skeins left of this precious yarn. Unfortunately, they didn't have it marked as a particular yardage per 50 grams. Each skein, though, I know is 50 grams, and traditionally 50 grams is anywhere between 135, 160 yards per 50 grams. I am going to definitely have to do a lot of swatching with this yarn to figure out how best to knit. But I'm assuming that if there's 150 yards per skein and I bought 8 skeins, so that's about 1,100 yards, which should be enough, one hopes, for a sweater. This is not skin soft. It definitely reminds me of Shetland, which makes sense because it is a similar primitive breed, but it is really squishy and bouncy. So I think there's something very cool to be made with this beautiful, unique yarn. So of course in Scotland there are many more wonderful wool shops, mills, and so on to visit all over the Highlands and Islands. These are the 3 that I was able to get to. I can tell you from my conversations there that the trade that they are doing with tourists from America and Europe and so on are what are keeping these crofts and mills alive. Unfortunately, I heard from one of the owners of Island at the Edge that the new Lanark mill which was a traditional woolen mill that someone had refurbished and that was beginning to spin yarn for crofts and wool producers in Scotland to then sell, had recently closed. So something that a lot of people who are focused on raising the profile of Scottish wool, unfortunately, I feel like they've had a setback. So, I definitely felt like I did my part on this trip. But stay tuned to find out what I do with this wonderful yarn, because I will be sharing that with you right here. Let's go take a look at the wonderful scenery I was able to take in while I was traveling through the Highlands and the Isle of Skye.
We started off our road trip in Stirling. Where sheep grazed underneath Stirling Castle. Under the watchful gaze of Robert the Bruce. Stirling was a fun town to see the sights, and we got to grab a pint. But the adventure began when we picked up our camper van. Good morning! We are near Kilchurn Castle, although we understand that it might be needing to be pronounced Kilhern Castle. Anywho, it is just after sunrise. It has stopped raining for a little bit. Yay! And my husband, who is behind me somewhere, I can't really see him from here, he's taking some landscape photography pictures of the moody scenery. This is the Highlands. You've got moody skies, hills, lochs, the whole shebang. We spent our first night in our camper van last night, wild camping nearby. As always, the first night of renting a camper van is always a bit of an adventure figuring out how everything works. But it is, a beautiful, moody Scottish morning. We've got castles, we've got sheep, so we're going to take some pictures, and then we're going to go in search of some coffee, I hope. But by the way, these gloves, these mittens, are the perfect thing. They keep my fingers warm, but I'm still able to do stuff. Love this pattern by Outi. That's how you say her name. Lots of pronunciation issues this morning. Anyway, I will catch you later. Bye. This beautiful gray, primitive-looking sheep was also in the pasture near Kilhern. I am not sure what the breed is, but that beautiful black and gray is just stunning. Just outside of Fort William, there was this cool shipwreck that sat underneath the snowy top of Ben Nevis. Plus, we got to see the Jacobite train go by, otherwise known as the Hogwarts Express. Good morning from Glen Edinbane. We found this loch, this small loch, behind us, and my husband, who is right over there, is doing his photography thing. It is a gorgeous morning, a bit chilly, which is a good reason to talk about the benefits of the things I have knit. So I'm actually wearing my Icelandic
zip-up hoodie, which I am finding to be actually warmer than my REI fancy insulated layer. And I am also wearing my mitts. When they got damp, I was able to reblock the thumb, so it was a little bit less tight. And these are the perfect mittens for using your phone, your camera, all the good stuff. So this morning I might not be getting a bunch of knitting done. It's a little chilly, but I'm definitely enjoying the fruits of my handiwork. So now it is the afternoon and my husband is going along this lovely loch here at the end of the Glencoe Drive. And finally I get to do some knitting. So here's what I am working on. It is the Break Knits by Sheila Halcrow of Shilasdair Yarn. And I got the yarn at Laxdale Croft in Shetland, which was a very fun experience. I, of course, went for my own colors. I have one mitt complete. Gee, are you surprised? It's red. Anyway, very interesting construction. They have a turned cuff, so you actually start at the cuff end and then you flip the knitting inside out and knit the rest of the cuff. Very comfy fingerless mitts. And look, they go perfectly with my Icelandic hoodie. So I am fast at work on the other mitt. And it is a gorgeous setting. It's a little cool out, but I am toasty warm in my hoodie. And wow, Scotland, thank you so much for the beautiful, beautiful day.
This delightful woman in the car park showed me her beautiful temperature blanket she had made. Glencoe just had a beautiful mix of color and sounds with waterfalls. I really enjoyed sitting in the scenery and knitting. Good morning from Glencoe, Scotland. We are hanging out this morning next to the River Coe. The Three Sisters are right above me here. It is just beautiful. As per usual, my husband is doing his photography thing, and I can't think of a more gorgeous location to hang out and knit. This spot on the River Coe, where there's a house in front of mountains, is an iconic place to take wedding photos, apparently, and this couple was having a great time. Unfortunately, one day there was a horrible accident which backed up traffic for 2.5 hours, and it required a rescue helicopter to come pick up one of the victims. However, this was the view outside our van window. And this was the view from our camper van park. Not too shabby. Now on to the Isle of Skye, where we kicked things off with a visit to the Slikaken Bridge and waterfalls. one could easily see why they call Skye the Mystic Isle, because of the moody skies and vistas over water with mountains in the distance. On Skye, we got to get very up close to some lovely Highland coos who are just so adorable. This one just posed so nicely for his portrait. The next day, we were off to climb up the Old Man of Store. It was a foggy morning. So foggy you could barely see the sheep on the hills. You could barely see your fellow hikers, for that matter. At the photographer's viewpoint, an array of tripods stood by, waiting for the fog to clear. Which it pretty much never did. But the moody, cloudy weather made for gorgeous sunsets.
Good morning. We are here at the Quirang, which is a beautiful mountain hike with amazing rock formations. I think this one here is called the Prison. My husband here is doing some landscape photography, and I am just enjoying the view. It is just amazing skies, amazing landscape here on the Isle of Skye. Meanwhile, all my woolies keeping me warm.
Skye also had some amazing camper van parks with gorgeous views. We got to the ferry pools early to beat the crowds, and we were lucky enough to have a welcome party of sheep. The ferry pools can definitely get quite crowded with tourists, but it is so gorgeous there, it's easy to see why it is so popular. Our last stop was to the beach at Elgall, where the soon-to-be setting sun made for a gorgeous vista.
By the way, if you are enjoying this video, please do be sure to hit that thumbs up, that like button. It will help people just like yourself find this video and enjoy it too. Thank you so much. Let's talk about some of the things I have been working on. I haven't given that much of a spinning update recently, but I have been doing some. My focus has been much more lately on knitting and completing my MHK level 2. So spinning for me has been somewhat of a daily break, a 15-minute spinning meditation as it were, but you still do manage to get something done. So here on my Ladybug, I have been spinning up this beautiful red top that I purchased from the 100th Sheep at the Mountain and Valley Wool Festival in Santa Fe last fall. What I love is from here, it looks kind of matte, but I am spinning it worsted, and it has such a lovely shine from the silk. So I am just going to be doing a simple 2-ply fingering weight. Probably going to be some yarn for shawl. I did do a sample. Here is my sample yarn. I mean, this is the kind of color red that just makes my heart sing. It's got some spring from the crimp of the blue-faced Leicester, and it also has a little bit of drape. Just happy spinning. I really do enjoy spinning. It feels like you're making magic. And I have been making a lot of progress on my autumn Alpine, or as I like to call it, the spring Alpine. This pattern is by Caitlin Hunter. And the yarn is the Mohonk that I purchased at Maryland Sheep and Wool in 2023. So this has become a bit of a learning experience. I actually think that the contrast in the pattern is just fine. It is, of course, a circular yoke pattern, as is the sweater I am wearing. What I am wearing is the Beyond Petals pullover by Teti Lutsak. I have been knitting this garment monogamously. There have been a number of times where I've gotten kind of annoyed at it. And I kind of feel like if I put it down to work on something else, there is a danger of never picking it up again. And as a result, I am just plowing through. I'm now on the cuff of the right sleeve. Hopefully this will be done in, I'd say, a week or so. Here are the issues as I see them. I did swatch for this project. Here is my swatch. I just did a swatch in the round with a little bit of the pattern just to see if I liked it and to find out how close my gauge would be to the gauge of the sweater. And of course, my gauge was a little off. It was a little bigger, but I felt like this was going to be a really tight fit to try and get to a smaller gauge. This yarn, this Mohonk, is supposed to be sport. I am not so sure that it's sport, or if it's sport, it's on the higher end of sport, because I feel like I am fighting the size 4 needles, and I actually switched from wooden needles to metal needles to get all the knitting complete. My gauge is kind of off, and even though I am doing the trick of knitting one size smaller with large gauge to hopefully end up with the sweater that actually fits, this sweater's turning out to be really a little bit too big, even with knitting the smaller size. So let's do an experiment, shall we? So here is a skein of the Mohonk. This is a skein of the Mushroom Gray of Simple Hill Farm DK. This is non-superwash merino. This is non-superwash, I think it is either Targhee or Rambouillet. It is wool that comes from out west. Has very, very similar feel, almost exactly the same, similar ply structure as the Simple Hill Farm. Okay. This is supposedly sport weight. It's hard to see, but hopefully you can. This is DK. Are my eyes fooling me? But I feel like they are the exact same thickness. You know, I mean, when you buy yarn at wool festivals, like I bought both of these, you can't really expect a high degree of accuracy. All I'm saying is I should not be surprised when you make the comparison between this being sport and this being DK with the fact that this feels like it's a pretty tight squeeze for US 4 needles. I am going to be super excited when this garment is done. It'll be a nice, bougie kind of sweatshirty, pretty, beautiful thing to wear this winter. I am modifying the sleeves to make them shorter because I have short arms. But other than that, I am following the pattern. It's just going to be a little bit oversized. So it'll be a very comfy sweater. So that is my autumn Alpine. I am looking forward to finishing this sweater and being able to work on something else. What is that going to be? The next Yarn Journeys video is going to take us to Edinburgh. And I look forward to sharing with you some more woolly goodness as well as the amazing sights of that capital city of Scotland. Please be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss it. That's all I've got for you today in this video. Thank you so much for spending time with me, and I look forward to seeing you in the next one.